The council chamber aboard the starship Varaxis was a cathedral of shimmering hololight. Translucent panels of sapphire energy arced overhead, casting undulating patterns across the tiered seating. At the center floated the council's dais, a circular dais of levitating obsidian, engraved with the sigils of Zirkel's ancient conquerors. Around it sat 16 of the realm's most powerful leaders, their forms projected as crystalline avatars that pulsed with each whispered debate. At the apex of the dais loomed Supreme Commander Aesthar, his onyx robe trailing like liquid night. His seven-faceted eyes recorded every nuance of the assembly, the hardened expressions of the war masters, the keen intelligence of the science delegates, the stoic resolve of the homeward envoys. When Aesthar spoke, the chamber fell into reverent silence. "We stand at a pivotal moment," he announced, his voice resonating through the bioplasma speakers. His tone was neither boastful nor uncertain. It was inevitability made audible. Earth, the third planet orbiting Sol, is in turmoil. Its nations quarrel endlessly, its resources dwindle, its people are fractured. He motioned, and behind him the great holomap flickered to life, a pale blue sphere streaked with white and green. Golden markers illuminated the fractures, borders where conflict festered, habitats on the brink of collapse. Analysis of their military capacity indicates minimal intercontinental coordination. Their orbital defenses are primitive, their planetary shield arrays non-existent. A swift campaign could bring them to their knees before they even comprehend our presence. A murmur of agreement rippled through the council. The War Masters exchanged satisfied glances. Tactical hologrids displayed pre-calculated invasion routes slicing across continents like razor blades. But at the far edge of the chamber, Science, Chief Lormar's avatar flickered, betraying a hesitancy in his otherwise precise demeanor. "Ozthar," Lormar interjected, voice calm but insistent. "Our scans do not account for the unpredictability of human psychology. Their fight-or-flight responses are anomalous. They exhibit resilience far beyond what our pre-contact studies predicted." Ozthar's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Lormar expanded a floating data cluster, heart rate variances, adrenaline spike charts, battle sortie recordings. In isolated incidents, humans confront apex predators, bears, big cats, even each other, with a ferocity we've never seen. Their cerebral cortex can override pain receptors under extreme stress, enabling feats of endurance and strength that defy biomechanical logic. The War Masters scoffed. Commander Tal Shek, a veteran of 100 campaigns, leaned forward. "Every species has anomalies. We excise them. We overwhelm them." Lormar shook his crystalline head. "This is not an outlier. EM scans from airborne probes revealed dozens of similar engagements. Humans braving wildfires, deluges, collapsing structures. Each time they improvise weapons, tactics, and rescue methods in real time." Silence fell. Even the hum of the hololights seemed to pause. Ozthar sensed the chamber's current shifting from triumph to contemplation. He stood, the very image of sovereign authority. "We have spent centuries abdicating our doubts," he declared. "We have cataloged their weaknesses: poverty, disease, political division. We have rehearsed the first salvo. Yet we may yet misunderstand the ferocity born of desperation." Across the chamber, the homeward envoys, whose mandate was colonization and integration, nodded in quiet approval. They had long cautioned against underestimating Earth's indomitable spirit. Ozthar raised a hand. "We proceed, but not yet. Prepare the fleet for Phase 1 deployment, but hold the final trigger. I want direct recordings of these human anomalies. We will learn their nature before we break their will." A low chorus of assent resonated. Hologrids shifted from attack vectors to surveillance sweeps. Drones were primed, scout ships readied their cloaking fields. And at the fringes of the solar system, unseen by human telescopes, the Zirkelian armada stood poised, its ambition tempered for now by a single question: how deep did Earth's hidden strength truly run? In that moment, as the council dispersed, Azthar allowed himself a rare flicker of curiosity, not of conquest but of respect. For in the galaxy's darkest reaches, respect was the precursor to true understanding, and perhaps even friendship. Night draped itself across Earth's northern hemisphere, as the first of the Zirkelian scout ships, sleek needles of mirrored alloy, pierced the upper atmosphere. Under the cover of eclipse, they dispersed into pairs, each equipped with advanced cloaking fields and silent ion drives. Their mission? Catalog every facet of humanity's defenses, habits, and weaknesses, from the sprawling megacities to the most remote wilderness. Lieutenant Cathal of the Vorsha led one pair toward the Great Boreal Forests of North America. Through their external sensor pods, the scouts recorded tree cover, wildlife populations, and any signs of human activity. They drifted above a meandering river, its surface lit by the faint glow of phosphorescent algae. Occasional campfires flickered along its banks, reminders that humans still prize the old rituals of wilderness exploration. Cathal toggled a playback loop of a nearby camera array, expecting to see fishermen or campers. Instead, the feed revealed a clearing where a lone human, a rugged man in flannel and denim, stood toe-to-toe with a towering grizzly. The bear reared, claws extended, teeth bared in a roar that shook the lens. For a heartbeat, the Zirkelians were silent. Then the man charged. He dodged the bear's first swipe, rolling beneath its massive paw. As the beast turned, he launched himself upward, driving a makeshift spear, sharpened branch braced with woven vine, into its shoulder. The creature staggered, but recovered in an instant, swiping again. The human leapt back, throwing punches at the bear's muzzle, one blow connecting with a satisfying crack. "Deploy grapplers," whispered Cathal, hand hovering over the command console. But before he could override the protocol, the forest camera zoomed in. The man's eyes were fierce, veins pulsing with adrenaline. He screamed, half battle cry, half challenge, and pressed his advantage, striking again and again until the bear, wounded and exhausted, collapsed into the underbrush. The image replayed in slow motion. The human, chest heaving, arms raised above his head, as if exulting in victory. Not a flicker of fear passed across his face. Around Cathal's co-pilot, Ensign Arvek, data flickered in confusion. "Physiological readouts show a 600% adrenaline spike," she reported. "Muscle tremors should immobilize him at this level. Yet he's still mobile, stronger than when he started." Cathal swallowed. Every scout ship's database was filled with prey species that faltered when faced with apex predators. Yet, here was a human who, by all logic, should have been overwhelmed, and instead prevailed. "Record all spectral and neural emissions," he ordered. "We need complete data on this anomaly." For the next 20 minutes, the scouts tracked the man's movements as he fashioned a bandage from torn cloth and fashioned a crude stretcher for the bear's massive paw, an act of compassion that only deepened the mystery. When he finally disappeared down a hidden deer trail, the Zirkelians broke their trance. Back aboard the Vorsha, their report triggered an immediate rerouting of nearby scouts. Every camera array within a 50-kilometer radius was commandeered, every drone redirected. The High Command wanted more: behavioral patterns, social ties, psychological profiles. As the scout ships fanned out, Cathal allowed herself a moment of wonder. These humans lived amid river rapids, mountain storms, and feral beasts, and each time they met the challenge head-on. No animal, no natural disaster, no internal conflict seemed capable of breaking their spirit. The scout ships vanished into the night, data streams humming with the unexpected. Humans were not the meek, divided species the Council had believed. They were warriors, each confrontation sharpening their will. And somewhere in the wilds, that flannel-clad fighter prepared for the next battle, unaware that across the stars a conquering armada hesitated, watching and wondering what to do next. The grand observation deck of the Varaxis thrummed with low-frequency hums as Commander Azithar reviewed the latest transmission loop. The looping footage of the human-bear confrontation glowed against the holotable, its edges flickering, with real-time telemetry, heart rate spikes, lactic acid concentrations, neural impulse tracings. Every metric defied the Council's predictive models. Science Chief Lormar stepped forward, fingers dancing through the air as he overlaid comparative data from other species. "Observe the cortisol regulation here," he said, isolating. A spike in the human's amygdala activity. At a 700% increase, any known organism collapses under its own biochemistry. Yet this human maintains, and even augments, motor function. His synaptic feedback loops regenerate faster than they decay. Ozthar's seven eyes focused. "You're saying their biochemistry isn't just resilient, it's regenerative?" "Precisely." Lormar tapped a glyph, and a 3D model of a human cell materialized, veins pulsing with neon. Under extreme duress, their cells enter a pseudo-stem state, repairing micro-tears in muscle and neural tissue almost instantaneously. We've never observed a species capable of such rapid autogenesis outside of embryonic stages. Warmaster Talshek's avatar crackled with impatience. "Biochemical marvels don't win wars, Science Chief. We have at our disposal the Shatter Bomb and the Nova Lance. We sweep their capitals, and they're done." But Lormar persisted. "It's not just physiology. Their cognitive plasticity is unparalleled. During the encounter, the human improvised a hunting spear on the fly. No pre-training, no advanced tools. That level of situational problem-solving combined with physical adaptation, it breaks our predictive algorithms." A hush fell. Even the hollow light seemed to dim in contemplation of this revelation. Ozathar turned to his tactical officers. "What of their military networks? Can we exploit the fissures between their nations?" A tactical lieutenant projected a layered map of Earth's alliances and conflicts. "They bicker incessantly, but when faced with true danger, a hurricane, wildfire, pandemic, they unify swiftly. Human history shows they can set aside ideological divides when survival is at stake." Silence deepened. Ozathar folded his onyx robes inward. "We face a paradox. A species that fractures easily, yet heals and fights back as one when the stakes are existential." He paused, gaze drifting to the planet's blue orb spinning in the holoview. "An invasion might galvanize them more fiercely than our probes ever could." Lormar inclined his head. "I recommend delaying the assault. Instead, dispatch an expeditionary study fleet. Embed within their ecosystems, observe their social dynamics under stress. Only once we truly understand their unity and regenerative capacities can we determine the optimal strategy." Around the table, avatars flickered as the council weighed. "This council." Ozthar raised a hand. "Very well. Phase 1 remains surveillance. Phase 2, full engagement, is suspended until further notice." He allowed himself the faintest hint of a smile. "Let us learn what makes these humans tick, before we decide whether to stop their heart or merely join its rhythm." With that decree, the Voraxis pivoted from war room to research vessel. Across the silent corridors, sensor crews prepared specialized probes. Xenopsychologists calibrated cultural analysis suites. In the depths of space, the Armada halted its march of conquest, hesitant, curious, and for the first time in awe of the fighters on that distant, vibrant world. Across every continent, the Zirkelian scout network now operated in overdrive. Cloaked probes drifted through neon-lit megacities, swept across arid deserts, and sailed above tempest-tossed oceans, all transmitting streams of human resilience back to Voraxis. What they found was a tapestry of unyielding spirit. Urban parkour battlegrounds. In Seoul's towering skyline, a cadre of young humans vaulted effortlessly from rooftop to rooftop. Their bodies curved and twisted in midair, arms outstretched, legs tucked, navigating 60 meters of vertical drop with nary a misstep. Recording drones captured one athlete, bloodied but undeterred, launching himself over a 20-story gap on a makeshift ramp. Within seconds, he'd corrected a slanted landing, rolling to safety and sprinting onward as if gravity itself were but a suggestion. Inhuman alpinists, high in the Andes, mountaineers clad in streamlined gear clung to ice walls that glinted like fractured mirrors. When a sudden avalanche thundered beside them, two climbers separated by 50 meters, improvised a pulley system from discarded rope and climbing hardware, shuttling food and emergency equipment between who knows how many frozen feet in the air. Their combined calm under mortal threat defied the Zirkelian models of panic response. Inferno's guardians. In California, wildfires raged across thousands of hectares. Crews of human firefighters, some running on mere hours of sleep, waded into collapsing structures to rescue trapped families. One squad used a repurposed drone to drop guided flame-retardant charges, technology jury-rigged from consumer hardware. When the entire canyon inlet erupted in flame, they formed a living barrier, rotating under shifting winds to shield a neighbor's home until reinforcements arrived. Ingenious hope. In the Philippines, after a typhoon leveled an entire town, children organized impromptu rescue brigades. Using bamboo stalks and fishing nets, they built stretchers and safety harnesses to carry the injured through flooded streets. Their compassion was as striking as their courage. One boy knelt by a collapsed elder, repeating soothing words until medics arrived. As these vignettes streamed into the council's chambers, fissures formed among the Zirkelian strategists and scientists. Faction of Conquest, led by War Master Talshek, they argued that raw force could still prevail. Our shock squads will neutralize their champions, Talshek insisted, flicking through holograms of biomechanical infantry. We strike, fast, decisively, before they can mount collective defense. Faction of Observation, bolstered by Science Chief Lormar and the Homeward Envoy Circle, they urged a deeper study. We've underestimated their ability to adapt, Lormar warned. Rushing in risks creating a unified front our weapons may not penetrate. Faction of Integration, a quieter minority suggested cooperation over conquest. Imagine an alliance, whispered Envoy Siranal. Their ingenuity joined with our technology. Together we could reshape the galaxy. Tensions crackled like static across the hollow bridge. Azathar watched impassively as data streams and emotive arguments clashed. He had seen enough to know that Earth was no mere prize, it was a forge, tempering its inhabitants in the crucible of constant challenge. To subdue such a species would require not just overwhelming force but understanding, and perhaps a new kind of strategy altogether. Finally, Azathar stood, silencing the chamber. We are not conquerors of the weak, he declared. We are masters of our fate because we understand our adversary. He tapped a glyph and the holomaps shifted from military grids to social networks, ecosystems, and cultural archives. Continue Phase 1, he commanded. But prepare a Phase 1.5. Send aboard our cultural envoys and socio-psychologists. We will live among them, observe their rights, share in their struggles, and decide whether we can break them, or if we should instead forge something far greater. And so, while the Armada's warheads remained secured, a new expedition prepared to descend, not just scouts and soldiers but diplomats and dreamers, ready to meet Earth's warriors on their own ground, and discover if the greatest strength of humanity lay not in its force, but in its heart. The vast war room of the Voraxis fell silent as Commander Azthar's decree echoed through its crystalline corridors. No invasion, yet. Hologrids shimmered from attack patterns to diplomatic routes, and the once gleaming silhouettes of biomechanical shock squads were replaced by slender figures of cultural envoys. Azthar stood before the assembled leaders, war masters, science delegates, homeward envoys, his 7 eyes reflecting the pale blue orb of Earth hovering in midair. We came as conquerors, he began, voice firm but tempered with something new, respect. Yet what we have seen demands reevaluation. These humans do not yield when broken. They heal, adapt, and counterstrike with ingenuity born of their very spirit. Science Chief Lormar stepped forward, holographic charts dancing around him. Our probes confirm human societies rally in crisis, forging alliances across ideologies. Their regenerative biochemistry and problem-solving neural pathways operate in tandem to overcome threats, natural or artificial. He gestured to images of firefighters, climbers, and the lone flannel-clad fighter. We risk uniting them, into a force our weapons cannot fracture. War Master Talshek bristled, but the commander's gaze held him. Talshek, your shock squads may still clear a path, Azthar conceded. But first we must understand whether our strike would shatter their unity or forge it into an implacable front. With a final flourish, Azithar tapped his gauntlet. The holomap dissolved. In its place hovered schematics for 5 envoy vessels, each carrying a mixed crew of xenopsychologists, trade delegates, and, quietly, military liaisons prepared only for defense. Phase 1.5. We embed among them. We learn their rhythms, their fears, and their unspoken hopes. Only then do we decide whether to conquer or to coexist. 2 days later, the envoy ships descended. Stealth fields dimmed, ion drives silent, touching down in disparate corners of Earth. The frozen expanses of Siberia, the sun-scorched plains of the Serengeti, the high-rise jungles of Shanghai, the verdant warrens of the Amazon basin, and the rugged forests of North America where the bear fighter still roamed. Disguised as researchers and aid workers, the Zirkelians stepped into human settlements. They sat by crackling campfires, tasted native foods, and joined local councils in rebuilding efforts. They witnessed desperation and joy, sorrow and triumph, each moment an unguarded window into the human soul. In North America, the flannel-clad man, named Jonah, guided his alien observer through the forest trails. Belly aching with laughter, he recounted the bear fight as a tale of luck and adrenaline. Unaware of its cosmic impact, the observer recorded every nuance: Jonah's humility, his sense of humor, his unwavering defiance in the face of fear. Back on Varaxis, data streamed in. Humans improvising water purifiers from scrap, children forming volunteer brigades, entire villages replanting forests overnight. The Cultural Council met again. This time Azthar's tone was different, resolute, hopeful. "We have come seeking cracks in their armor," he said. "Instead, we find strengths that mirror our own highest ideals." He paused, letting the weight of their discoveries settle. "War is an instrument of the weak who cannot imagine peace. Perhaps it is not Earth we must conquer, but our own preconceptions." As the envoy mission continued, the Armada remained in orbit, no warheads armed, no battle plans active. In their place, trade negotiations flickered to life, and cultural exchanges began under starlit skies. Far below, on a planet brimming with warriors, the greatest battle was not one of weapons, but of wills, and it was one the Zirkelians had already lost. For in seeking to dominate Earth, they had been conquered by its indomitable heart.